My name is Kelly Church. I'm a member of the Natchitoches Band of Potawatomi Indians and descended from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. I live in Allegan, Michigan. I was born in Allegan, Michigan, and I lived here most of my life. I've, lived away a few times, but I've always moved back home, back to where my family is, and back to where all of the trees that I use in my art also are back here in Michigan. I became an artist. I started calling myself an artist, I would say, as an adult, but I have done art my whole life. My mother and father both were very influential in me doing the art that I do today. My mom, when I was younger, she was always our 4-H leader. So she was always, teaching us ceramics and how to paint and do all kinds of arts and crafts. My dad was also an artist. He drew and did many wonderful things with art as well. But he's also the one who taught me how to work with the black ash tree. And the black ash tree is a tree that our Anishinaabe people in Michigan have always used to make baskets. And so he was my first teacher of me learning how to use this tree and turn a tree into a basket. So both of my parents were my inspiration to be an artist. And they also both supported me wholeheartedly. If you told your parents you wanted to, go to art school, maybe not everyone would encourage that, but both of my parents did, and they have supported me along the whole way. And I thank them for that. The things from my culture that inspire and drive my work are all of our traditional teachings that come from our Anishinaabe people. All of my work, the contemporary work, the innovative work, it all starts from a very traditional place. And it starts from the trees that our people have always used here in Michigan to make our baskets, our utilitarian baskets, our homes, our lodges, our canoes. So some of the materials that I use are black ash. I use those to make baskets and I weave those. I use the basswood bark, the inner bark of the basswood tree. With this, we can make cordage and you can weave together basswood bags. I use sweetgrass that I grow in my backyard actually, but that can also be harvested in nature and it gives a nice contemporary, beautiful look to the black ash baskets, but it's always been used by our people. So there's many different fibers from the forest that I harvest. White cedar bark I use in my baskets and we can use those to make mats. So everything that I do starts from a traditional teaching from the Anishinaabe people. Um, my work is really focused on our stories of today. So they start in a traditional place, but I tell a contemporary story of our people today. Today, we are faced with losing our black ash trees. Our black ash trees have an invasive species called the emerald ash borer. It was introduced into Michigan in 1992. We did not discover it until 2002. It has killed over 600 million ash trees in Michigan, and we stand to lose the entire ash resource of North America. So my work has been focused on sustaining these traditions in the way that I am trying to really focus on teaching youth because they are the ones who will carry on the tradition into the future. And also collecting seeds so that we can sustain the trees, because if we are predicted to lose them all, the way we will be able to bring these trees back is by replanting collected seeds in the future. And to have that done in the future, you really need to work with the youth. So I've been working with the youth on, collecting seeds, harvesting trees, just as we have always done. We have practiced this practice for thousands of years. I come from a family that has a photo from 1919 of us weaving baskets. But with this photo, my grandmother said once, we made baskets before they made cameras. So while it documents me as a 5th-generation basket weaver, there are many more generations that come before that picture was taken. And so I hope to sustain this in the future by doing just what we are now, recording the process taking photos. I make flashcards, I write things down, and most of all by sharing with our generations that we have today that will hopefully be able to replant the seeds and share it tomorrow. I work with many youth groups. So I work with a lot of different tribes here in Michigan and in the Great Lakes area. So I will go to different tribes and share the traditions that my family has been so, I want to say so lucky to be able to sustain and carry on. My basket weaving family here in Michigan is one of the largest extended basket weaving families in Michigan to have retained this knowledge. And as some tribes sometimes lose their last grandmother who maybe made baskets or their aunties, and the knowledge just isn't carried on. So my family and myself and my extended cousins and some friends that I also have here in Michigan, we will go to other tribes and we'll teach. I teach at universities, at Native American student groups, and of course, as I do these teachings, I'm always watching for those that are really getting it. They're really interested in what they're doing. When they make a mistake, they recognize it. They want to take it out. They want to redo it. And they're asking questions. So those are the youth that I'm really eyeing today to be the teachers of tomorrow. So with this pandemic, things have really slowed down in the way of hands-on teaching. And we can't afford to even take a year off from sharing our teachings because there are so little years left with the Black Ash tree. So in light of that, I'm going to be doing some more one-on-one teaching with people that I have been working with in the communities over the years, the ones that I just spoke of, that could be the next teachers of the next generations. The older I get, the more imperative it is to pass it on to future generations and make sure that we have teachers continuing to pass it on in the future. So it's with tribal groups, it's with Native American student groups, and in 2021, it will be with those that I have worked with and that I will be asking to work with me one-on-one like we're doing now, and also in the forest. So in the forest, we can social distance and we can do our teaching in smaller groups. I think art can help you heal during all situations. So during this time of COVID, art has been a real saving grace for me. I think in the beginning, when it was first happening and we were all confused and, with little knowledge of what it was, and we're still learning things. So that's always a good thing, to keep learning and to keep listening. We were so unsure. I stayed at home a lot. I'm one of the vulnerable people, so I'm diabetic, and I had to be a little bit more careful. So I did a lot more with nature than I usually do. Now everything I do is working with nature in the woods, but this is more things like taking drives just to go and see the nature. I live very rurally, so if we take a drive, we can be on dirt roads forever. And during this time, I would just see so many beautiful things. I would notice the lilies growing. We had our strawberries coming up. We had our blueberry seasons. There was all these different beautiful things happening this summer. We had the comet. That was for like a good week or two that we could all see the comet, even with our binoculars. We could see it here in the middle of the fields. I would go look around me where I live. So these things really inspired me to remember that, with everything that was going on in the world, and there's so much going on, so much necessary conversations happening, that where people were talking about how, they couldn't breathe, while some people were having their breath literally taken from them by others. Some people were saying they couldn't breathe because they had to wear a mask. And so I had to really just kind of remember that there was so much beauty around us that we all needed to remember to just breathe in that beauty. So this summer, I spent some time creating some masks that reflected that beauty. I quilled some masks on birch bark of flowers and our strawberries and our blueberries. And I did another mask where I quilled some strawberries. And then on the other half of it, it has the comet and some of the stars that we could see this summer. So it was just a reminder that there's a lot of beauty around us, no matter how much ugliness might be happening at the time or in a situation, you can always find beauty in everything. So these are some of the things that inspired me and helped me keep going. Art is a saving grace for everybody. These are some of the masks that I was speaking of. So this was the first mask that I created this summer. I started it in about the end of June and it went into July. So this is quilled. This has birch bark on it, and this has quilled materials. There's sweetgrass at the top, and then I also have some white cedar bark. So these are a lot of those tree materials that I was talking about that I use in my art. And I wasn't able to harvest very much this summer. So this summer, I spent a lot of time using materials that I already had in my house. And so I did have some birch bark. I had, this is the one I was speaking of a moment ago. So I called this one Breathe in the Beauty of the Day and of the Night. And so this shows the beautiful strawberries that we were harvesting in July because that's when they become ripe. And it's also the time when we can peel our birch bark off the trees. And then on the other side, there's the comet down there, and there's a Big Dipper and the Little Dipper and all of the beautiful stars that I could see in the country when I would go into the fields to try and see the constellation. There was also the shooting stars that we had in August that I just loved. And so I'm in process of finishing a mask about our shooting stars this summer. There's so many amazing things that we have around us. And I think this summer during COVID, when we were required to be home more than usual, it gave us all an opportunity to connect more with nature and to just maybe see things and pay attention to things that we usually don't. This is my most current mask that I made, and this is actually on winter bark. So winter birch bark is different than summer birch bark at the time of year we harvest it. And then you can etch on it. So this one, you can see the etchings, and I have some strawberries, a hummingbird, and then I beaded around it. So these are just some different masks that, of course, you could wear them, but they're more meant as art pieces and as art statements, just to pay attention to, you know, the beautiful things that we do have to see around us. Some of the art that I create from the black ash trees that I'm well known for, I call Fabergé eggs. They're kind of based on the Fabergé egg and the way that they're embellished with metal, and they're very fancy and shiny, and you are drawn in, hopefully, by the beauty of them, and that is what I'm trying to do. The messages that they have is when you open them up, they will have a bug inside of them, like the emerald ash borer inside a vial, or a black ash seed. And so these are the things that are affecting us. And also a black ash seed is something that can bring back something that could be lost. So I do a lot of these style of eggs, and they're, each one is unique and different. So this is one that I have created recently, and it's called Traditional Transformations, because as we lose our black ash, which is all of the green that you see on here, I'm having to turn to other materials to make my baskets. If I don't have my black ash trees, then what would I use? So I have some baskets that I make out of vinyl blinds. Those are called 7th generation black ash baskets that speak to if we lost all of our ash. This one is showing the basket turning into just the copper as opposed to the ash. So it's kind of like the transformation of the material. The emerald ash borer is a brilliant green, and he has a copper belly. So I make baskets based on the colors of the bug, and then that will have the bug inside. And I also do top hats. And so this is a top hat woven out of black ash. And on top of it, it has a treaty map from Michigan that shows, you know, the different treaties signed in Michigan. And it also shows how we retain our rights to harvest these materials from the forest. And then on here, I have written the words of water is life. We have a pipeline in Michigan that runs under the Straits of Mackinac. And the Great Lakes comprise 21% of the world's fresh water. So this hat speaks about how we could stand to lose that water and how important water is to us. It's not just water is life. It's not just a saying, but if we do not have water for 4 to 7 days, we all could perish. So water really, truly is life. So a lot of the messages I do start from traditional materials of the past, and they speak of my stories of today and the things that affect us natives today. Miigwech, that means thank you in my language. Thank you for having me today. I hope everyone stays healthy and happy. And here's to 2021 being a great new year for all of us.